If you're counting on student loan forgiveness to save you, you might be making a six-figure mistake. Because here's the truth. Most people think they understand student loan forgiveness, but they're either missing key rules, overestimating their chances of getting paid back, or betting their entire financial future that the government will pay back all of their student loans. So in today's episode, I'm going to break down the three main components of student loan forgiveness, if they're worth pursuing, how much energy and time should you spend seeing if you qualify for these. And the three main types are public service loan forgiveness, or PSLF, income-driven repayment, and that's IDR, and the National Health Service Corps, or NHSC. So of these three different programs, each one works a little bit differently. And when people are usually talking about student loan forgiveness, they're often talking about public service loan forgiveness. PSLF is a federal program that cancels your remaining debt, your student loan balance, after 10 years of qualifying public service work. Now, with this program, it only applies to federal loans, not to private loans. And it was designed to encourage people to work in often lower paying but essential fields like nursing, teaching, social work, and public health. But it has been expanded more to the medical field, especially for physicians and even some for PTs, OTs, and nurses, depending on the program. Now, here's the kicker. To qualify, you have to work full-time, so 30 or more hours for a qualifying employer. A lot of people just think, oh, student loan forgiveness will pay off all my debt no matter where I'm working. That's completely wrong. You have to work in certain settings. And some of these settings include nonprofit hospitals, government facilities like a VA hospital, public health clinics, public schools, academic institutions, and federally qualified health centers. Now, some requirements for PSLF, again, you have to be working full-time for a qualifying employer. You have to make 120 qualifying payments, and that comes out to that 10 years. And you must be enrolled in an income-driven repayment plan, or IDR. Now, historically, PSLF approval rates were extremely low as 2 to 5% during COVID. Now, these are some skewed statistics that people often like to throw out because COVID was a very interesting time. So it's kind of a skewed statistic. However, more recently, only about 20% of applicants meet the criteria to qualify. But many are still rejected because of either missing paperwork, missed payments, or incorrect loan or repayment setup. I've also heard some unfortunate and crazy stories of people who did all these things correctly, but their application was still rejected for reasons that they didn't even know. So that's why this program is a little scary and sketchy. I don't love relying on it. And so again, many people assume, hey, PSLF is going to take care of my loans, so they stop paying attention. But again, their loan balance can then grow significantly because they just think it's going to be taken care of. And so PSLF is real. It's not automatic. And my recommendation is if you're planning on already working in one of these sectors that would be under PSLF, like a VA hospital, government facility, or nonprofit, then this is something you should absolutely apply for. However, I don't want you to rely on this as your primary payment. Okay, I want your income to start paying off those student loans. And then if PSLF does end up paying off the balance of your loans, it's an amazing bonus. Now, there's also income-driven repayment, or IDR. IDR does turn into forgiveness eventually after like 25 or 30 years. But initially, it's not really forgiveness. It's a payment program. So your monthly payment with this program is based on your income and not your loan balance. And so if you're not making a whole lot of money, this might be helpful for someone who's working in a lower income job, but has a decent amount of student loans. The lower your income, the lower your payment. Payments continue for 25 to 30 years, and the remaining balance may be forgiven after those years. Some important limitations. It's a very long timeline. And because of this, we don't have significant data to show, is this program worth it as far as a forgiveness standpoint and strategy. A lot of the people are still in the program waiting to get fully approved. And so don't rely on this program to pay off your loans. Again, forgiveness is not guaranteed. And for this program, the forgiven amount may be taxable. I think this is especially going to change after July of 2026, once the One Big Beautiful Bill is enacted, because of the different types of IDR. And so we'll talk about that in a second. There's something called Repayment Assistance Plan, or RAP. Now, RAP is basically the newer version of IDR starting in July of 2026. You can think about IDR as like the iPhone, and the RAP is like specifically the model, iPhone 16, right? So it's just a specific type of IDR, and basically 10% of your income is going to go towards the payment. You have a $10 monthly minimum payment, whereas before, for some IDR programs, you didn't have any monthly minimum. But for this program, you're going to have at least a $10 minimum. And then 30 years until your graduate loans are forgiven. Again, this is only for federal loans. This doesn't apply to private loans. Some pros to this: it does prevent your loan balances from growing out of control. And the government may cover unpaid interest if your payment is too low. The cons: we have this really long 30-year repayment timeline. I don't want you guys spending more than like 3 to 5 years to pay off all your student loans. That's my hope for you. And again, there's a potential tax bill on the forgiven amount, which isn't great. And it's a new program, so the rules may change even after this recording. So just double check all those facts before you make a lot of assumptions. Now, the requirements for RAP is, again, it's only federal direct loans, so no private loans. You must recertify every income year and kind of show evidence that you're making these payments. And if you forget and you don't recertify your income each year, then your payments can jump up significantly. Interest could be added to the principal, and forgiveness timeline could even reset or pause. So it's really important, if you're going to do any of these programs, to stay super diligent and on top of all the paperwork. That's the only way this is going to work. Now, let's go to the National Health Service Corps, the NHSC. The NHSC is a service-based repayment program, and it's basically a payment for working in underserved areas. So there's a few different types of programs. There's something called the Loan Repayment Program. You can receive up to $50,000 for 2 years of service, and you have to work in what we call an HPSA, which is a health professional shortage area. That's what a lot of the NHSC scholarships are based on, is working under these HPSA regions. It can often be tax-free, which is pretty nice. It can be renewable depending on the program for additional service. The amount varies based on the need level, and this is the only program that has the language that it could include private loans as well. So it might not only be for the federal loans, but also for private loans. All of these NHSC programs are very competitive, but from the research I've done, this is probably your best bet if you're going to get cash back for student loans. Working in one of these underserved areas is probably one of the best ways that you're going to receive payment. There's also a scholarship program, and basically the scholarship program pays tuitions, fees, and a stipend. This program does require a service commitment after graduation, and again, it's highly competitive. So yeah, this is a after you graduate type of program. And all of these, I'm going to have links in the description. So if you go to the resources section, you're going to have direct links to all these websites so you can learn more and check it out yourself. Now, let's talk about the last NHSC program, is the Students to Service program. Now, this is up to $120,000 of payback. It's for students who are in their final year of their program, so whether it's medical school or PT, whatever program you're in. And it requires, again, service in a high needs area. Some examples are like a rural primary care type of setting, psychiatry, OBGYN, substance use disorder treatment areas, and rural rehab settings for PT and OT. From these three programs, for PSLF, if you're already going to be working in a government program or a nonprofit and you're planning on staying there for 10 years, great, use that to your advantage. But also you're just committing to work in an area or a type of setting for 10 years. And for me, that's a long time. I don't feel like I know what's happening in the next few years, let alone 10 years. And so that's something to be aware of. IDR, again, primarily use that as a payment plan, but I wouldn't rely heavily on the forgiveness for that one. If you're going to do a program, look into the NHSC. I think this is a great place to start. Probably one of the most high yield programs for your time. And again, the big takeaway, treat all forgiveness program as a bonus. It should not be your primary financial payment plan. Because again, rules change. New president's in who decides to tell everyone all your loans are forgiven, and then it doesn't actually happen, right? So in closing, guys, just make sure you build a plan where you can win financially, even if forgiveness never happens. So if student loan forgiveness isn't something you can fully rely on, what do? The question becomes, how am I actually going to pay for my education? If you can reduce what you borrow on the front end, you don't have to rely on forgiveness on the back end. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about in our next episode. That's going to cover how scholarships and choosing the right program can dramatically reduce or even eliminate student loans altogether. Well, thanks so much for joining us on the Fiscal Clinician podcast today, and we'll see you in the next episode.